Hey everybody. Hey Robin, how's it going today? Hey there. I'm doing pretty well. I just finished with clients for the day. So I see there's only a couple of you here at the moment. Hello to whoever just popped in. But I felt guided to get on here and do another live. So I'm going to put it into your hands as to the subject matter for today, what you guys want to talk about. Hey Mandy, how's it going? Hey Beth. So, I guess I will give you a few updates as to some things that are going on with me. This weekend in Independence, Ohio is the mediumship intensive that I'm doing. So I'm doing a 2-day intro to mediumship intensive, which is really geared towards beginners and intermediates alike, but I'm excited for that. Some of you know that I have been working very hard over the past year or more on my next book, and my goal, my intention is to have that completely finished, published, and in hand, available to the public by the first of the year. So, if you're interested in mediumship or developing your own mediumship abilities and you don't have access to a class or a circle, you may be of interest in this book, and I will definitely keep you guys updated as to when it is available online and on the website for you to purchase, but that is coming. Also, at the end of this month, the 23rd of September, which is a Saturday, I'm going to be doing from 3 to 6 at It's Your Journey in Huron. I'm going to be doing my class on working with the spirit of Blackhawk and the role of the native spirit in spiritualism and in mediumship. So if you're local and you want to check out that class, you can visit itsyourjourney.com for details. And then in October, for those of you in the North Central Ohio area, I will be presenting again at the Bellevue Public Library. I'll be doing a presentation on the history of spiritualism in Northern Ohio. So I'm excited for that because it's new, but it's very local, so it might not appeal to everyone, but for those of you who are either interested in spiritualism or interested in history, especially related to Ohio, that might be of something for you. And for my Michigan people in October in Grand Rapids, I'm going to be at the Healing Body and Spirit Expo. So check that out. I'll be doing some lectures, and I'll also be doing private appointments. And I think I'm doing an audience reading. So if you're in the area, if you're in the Grand Rapids area, that's something that you might be interested in as well. Hey Ginger, good to have you here. Let's see here. Let me refresh. It's easier for me to just look at these on my computer instead of trying to mess with the phone all the time. Mandy wants to know, can you take us through what happens when we die? So, the first thing that I will say is I only know bits and pieces that Spirit has shared with me through the course of my 10 plus years doing readings. I do not have all of the answers, and the other thing that I want to start with is every soul is different, so every soul's experience is going to look a little bit different. So there's not a blanket experience that all souls have when they cross over. It's very unique to the individual, is unique to the experience. What most souls have communicated to me is that usually upon their passing over, they're met by a loved one, because nobody dies alone. Even if their physical loved ones are not around them, those who have passed before them are always there to greet them. So no one is making that transition by themselves. Now, usually when a soul crosses over, what they encounter in the earlier stages are usually what they need it to be. Heaven is not only a place, but a state of consciousness. So for some people, especially in my readings, sometimes souls will come through and they'll talk about what their heaven looks like. And for some, it might be fishing on the lake. Or for another, it might be, I don't know, the house that they grew up in or whatever. So when we first transition, we're still very much attached to the earth life we had. So oftentimes our experience upon passing over immediately or more similarly reflect what they experienced or what they knew on earth. The longer that a soul is on the spirit side, the less need there is to identify with their earthly identity. So to themselves, when they pass over, they might look 98. As time goes on, they become less attached to the idea of age and stuff like that, and they can look however they want to look because it's energy. They're not locked into this physical body. There is a body of sorts, but it's a spiritual body. So the spiritual body is sort of a replica of the physical body, but more perfect. So when they make that transition, they don't carry with them the physical ailments or physical dis-ease that they may have had when they were here in the physical body. It's a perfect template, so to speak. And I do believe that we do sort of a period of reflection. We do sort of a life review. But I do not believe, as some people have made it out to be, that we're sitting with our spirit guides in front of like a television screen and we're watching our life from birth till death. That to me is a bit of a literal interpretation. I think of it more as a period of contemplation, a period of understanding, and we have to keep in mind that there is no time on the spirit world. So they may have only been past what might seem like a week here, but they could have reflected and have gone through and evaluated the entirety of their life in that short period. So I do think that it's important for us to understand what we did right. It's important for us to understand what we could have done better, and it's important that we understand how each and every action that we've made has affected the person that we've interacted with, both positive and negative. And it's not a pass or fail thing. There's no tests. It's not you passed this test, you failed this test. It's just the experience and the growth that comes from the experience and the refining of the soul as we review that experience. So I don't know if you have any other questions about that, but that's kind of a general summation of what I see or hear from souls that have passed over. Hey Joshua. Hey Debbie. Hey Pan. Hey Madeline, happy Monday. So, Mandy, does that answer your question, or is there another thing that I can look at with that? Hey Dina. I don't think I've seen you before. It's good to have you here. Alright, you guys, what else is on your agenda? What other subject matters would you like to explore today? Mr. Ingracia, how are you? I'm also working on putting together a few classes. One is going to be accessing the Akashic Records for yourself, another is going to be accessing the Akashic Records for someone else. So eventually that's going to be coming down the line. I just haven't tweaked it the way that I want to yet. Ginger Lynn, why do some mediums see only good stuff and some weird stuff, like the Dead Files lady? So the Dead Files lady, her name is Amy Allen, and as a rule of thumb, it is not my place to criticize another medium, because we all work differently. However, I think that this Dead Files woman is a complete fraud. She is either incredibly mentally unstable or a downright fraud. Because the spirit, every time she goes into a place, there's always giants and demons and shadow figures and ghosts that want to kill you and ghosts that want to harm you and, demonic energies and clawed beings, and the spirit world is nothing like that. Nothing like that. And I say that with authority, not because I know it all, but because the spirit world is love and the spirit world is beauty. Now that doesn't mean that the mediums that are all love and light, that everything is hunky-dory and peachy. As a reader, it is our job to be the messenger. It is not our job to edit the message. That being said, I think a medium needs to understand how to use discernment in the deliverance, to still say what needs to be said, but in a way that is constructive. So it's not that as if you can't hear something that is not good, if every single reading only said good stuff. Well, we all know that's not true, because life isn't full of just good stuff. It's good and negative, or challenging and easy, however you want to look at it. It's in the way that it's delivered that's important. I could share or still impart guidance about maybe a not so great situation, but instead of saying, oh my God, here's this horrible situation, you're screwed, I can say, I see some challenge pertaining to this. This is what I think it looks like, but this is how Spirit is telling me, or this is what Spirit is showing me, how you can make the best of that situation. I think the truth always lies in the middle. The truth is always in that middle ground. You can't be super love and light, and you can't be super dark, because that's dichotomy, and both exist simultaneously. So anytime anyone is too far in one direction or another, it's imbalanced. What about pets passing? Pets absolutely go to the same place we do. Absolutely. I personally don't communicate with animals that have passed over. Animals have never been my thing, but occasionally when I connect with people that have passed over, they'll show me that they have specific animals with them as a form of validation or comfort for the sitter. Hey Denise. Do you think spirits attach themselves to antique furniture and come home with the person? No. You might have an energy attached to an object, but I don't think that it's sentient. I don't think that spirits become attached to objects or furniture in that way. I don't. Luana asks, what about Alzheimer's? My mother had this. Alzheimer's and dementia is kind of a fascinating thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing for a person to go through, and it's even more terrible, I think, for the people who are connected to the person rather than the person themselves, because they see the deterioration of their loved one right in front of their eyes. But I was doing a session one time, and I was in this room where I do my readings, and I was reading for a woman, and her mom in spirit started to come through to me. So I'm giving her these messages, and I'm describing her mom, and she says, yeah, all of this is right, all of this is true, but my mom's alive. I said, wait, what do you mean your mom's alive? So she's alive, but she has very bad Alzheimer's. And what I have found, and that's happened to other mediums as well, that oftentimes when the brain and the body become so disconnected, the soul is kind of part here, part there. So some people pass all at once, and some people make that transition to the spirit world more slowly. Those with Alzheimer's often gradually move bits of their consciousness to the spirit world a little bit at a time, or spend some of their time here, some of their time there, until whatever contract is lived up that says, okay, I'm done here, I fulfilled my purpose, I can let go of the physical body. So people who have Alzheimer's dementia oftentimes are just as much in the spirit world as they are in the physical world. And sometimes, even if the physical body is still alive, it's kind of a shell. The soul can actually transition into the spirit world long before the physical body actually expires. Even if that physical body has some semblance of consciousness, reactivity, it's the baser senses. It's the true soul, the true essence of the person has already crossed over. So the specifics of it just kind of depends on the state of the progression of the deterioration of the mental state. How do you approach a sitter when you feel they need a reading in a public place and don't believe in approaching a stranger in public and just laying it all out there? You just don't do anything. If it is of the degree that you are going to explode if you don't talk to this person, then give them a business card and say, if you are interested, contact me. I really wouldn't even do that because it's not your place. Spirit will guide the person to the right medium at the right time. So if that person's supposed to come to you, they will come to you. But like I said, if it's so in your face or alarms in your head that you're going to explode, give them a business card. Say if they're interested, contact me. But I don't like and I don't agree with solicitation in any form. If I were in that situation, I probably wouldn't do anything. Hey Montana, hey Adam. Furthermore, not to beat you up, but furthermore, you shouldn't be open when you're out in a public place anyways. Like, part of being professional and seasoned as a medium is learning how to shut off and be open. And when you're not working, you should be off, and when you are working, you should be on. Hey Steven, what's up my friend? Have you ever spoken with a homicide victim? Absolutely. For about 3 years, I almost worked exclusively in missing persons, and it's not a fun thing. It's not. I think a lot of people get involved, and they have no business getting involved in missing persons, and I chose to step away because I needed to do so for my own mental health. When you're in the energy of death and murder and abuse and assault all the time, it becomes very heavy and very grim, and I needed a break, and I just never felt called to go back. Now that being said, if there was a missing persons case, if someone approached me and I felt that I had something to offer, I would, but I'm not looking to seek that out. Hey Shannon. Actually, even more so in missing persons, and it went beyond just giving information. We would actually conduct and participate in search and recovery missions, and travel to different states doing so, and it was interesting to say the least. Heavy stuff. Do people who have passed have regrets to what they did to you? They absolutely do. Sometimes people can't see themselves fully when they're here in the physical form, and when they pass over, they have a better understanding of their true nature. They have a better understanding of themselves. And a lot of the messages that I get in my own sessions are I'm sorries and apologies, because they can see things about themselves that they couldn't before, or they're willing to own up to things that they weren't able to own up to before. It's part of the healing process for the person receiving the message, and it's also part of the healing process and the growth process for the person who passed over. Hey Adam. Other Adam, Adam Berry. Our past loved ones absolutely help us to the degree that they can. I mean, they are often limited in how much they can affect the physical world, but I think of our loved ones on the other side. I use the analogy of a play. So when we're incarnate, when we're in a physical body, we're the actors on stage. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that's just as important for the play to play out effectively. So oftentimes I think our loved ones are pulling strings or nudging us from the other side, making sure that we make the right connections or turn in the right direction as much as they can. And of course, you know, we have free will and we have choice, and we can choose to go with or against our guidance. But I absolutely do believe that they try to, with as much power as they have, help and assist us from the other side. Robin, that's a great question. In order to be open and develop your psychic abilities, do you have to face your own past experience that you may have locked away? Sooner or later, yeah. Part of whether you're developing psychically, mediumistically, in order to be a clear channel, you have to know yourself. And that means looking at all aspects of yourself, having a deeper understanding of yourself. You know, that's part of meditation, to know the self, to be still. And it's in that stillness and in knowing ourself that we also or often encounter the shadow, which are the parts of ourselves that we don't like to look at and don't like to deal with, and things that, you know, we don't want to acknowledge. And whether we want to or not, they come to the surface. Now, some people experience these things that come to the surface and they interpret it as something malevolent instead of a metaphor for their own inner stuff. But I absolutely believe that if we're going to be a helper or a healer of service to other people, we have to be willing to do the work on ourselves first. So we do have to face our own, we do have to face our own shit. You're welcome. My sister is seeing a medium in a few hours. Any recommendations on what to ask? My advice is to go in with an open mind and drop any expectations of what it's supposed to look like and take it as it comes. It might benefit her before going in just to give her some time to be quiet and relax and just be open and receptive. Take a notepad or a voice recorder so you can record the reading if they allow it, but most mediums don't have an issue allowing you to record a reading, and just be open as it comes. Sometimes it's about what we need to hear instead of what we think we want to hear. Jesse Namath, can you talk a little bit about Incubus and Succubus? That's not something that's really on my radar screen. I deal with souls that have passed over, spirit guides, things often that we think of or see as a demonic nature are usually just things that are misunderstood or our own inner stuff made manifest. So do I literally believe that there are life force sucking supernatural seducers? I don't. Could I be wrong? absolutely, but it's just not something that's on my radar. During my first chemo, I could hear her, my angel guide, but this time not so much. Is there anything that I could do to open these channels back up? There's a lot that you could do, but we also have to keep in mind that just because we aren't getting something doesn't mean that it's not there, or just because we're looking for something in a particular way doesn't mean it's going to come in that way. So you may have been very auditory in that moment, but perhaps at this point in your life, your guide or your loved ones are going to, try to communicate in visual or feeling sort of ways. But there's all sorts of practices and psychic development exercises and things like that that you can do. But specifically, more than anything else, just meditating and being still and just saying, okay, Spirit, I'm open to you, is probably one of those beneficial things that you can do instead of the trying aspect. Now, specifically, if it's clairaudience that you're wanting to work on, there's many clairaudient exercises that you can do, such as training your mind to hear its own inner voice, because that's usually how our guides and loved ones speak to us, is through our own inner voice. So if I said to you to hear Mary Had a Little Lamb, you could hear it in your mind. You're not literally hearing it with your ear, it's sort of your mind's ear that you're hearing it in. That's the voice that our guides will often speak to us through. So by getting used to purposely engaging that and acknowledging that, when something comes through, you'll be able to recognize it. Now, the other thing too is part of why meditation is so important, that as you meditate, you know yourself, that even if what comes from a guide sounds like your own inner dialogue, you should be able to feel the difference between you and what's coming from Spirit. Do we all have guides that are with us in this lifetime? Absolutely. I've not met one person who doesn't have a spirit guide. Now, psychics and mediums and spiritualists will argue over how many guides you have or are allowed to have. I do not think there is a set rule, but I do believe that everyone has guides. In the craziness that is this planet, no one would incarnate without putting a good support system into place. Montana. My interpretation of guides are souls on the other side that we usually have some sort of spiritual tie or karmic tie to, who elects to take on a position of acting as a source of guidance for us as we take on a physical body. So in the truest sense of a word, a spirit guide is a human soul. Now, some people will say, well, I have angels and I have souls, guides that have never been in physical body. I don't know about all that. They might. But in the spiritualist context, a spirit guide is a human soul. This is different than what some people might call power animals or totems or spirit animals, which are not the individual spirit of an individual animal, but the overall collective consciousness or the archetype of a species. So it's not, let's say, you have bear spirit guide, right? It's not like there's an individual spirit of a bear that was shot and killed from a hunter. It's the collective spirit of all bear, the species of bear. So that's how I view that. I do believe that our loved ones on the other side can act in a guide sense, but aren't a true guide in the way that they don't have that agreement and came into this physical lifetime with us. They were already here before we got here, grandma and grandpa and stuff like that. So, and they usually have more of their human opinions in the guidance that they bring through anyways. But I think that anything that gives you guidance, if we're going to argue vernacular, is a guide. Gina is channeling the same as what mediums do. All psychic work, all mediumship, all readings are healings. Technically can be categorized under the umbrella of channeling. When the word channeling is used today, what it is often referring to in the context that it's used is conscious channeling, very similar to Esther Hicks or the Seth material, or some of these other channelers that we have, where they're hearing something or receiving something and speaking it as they're getting it, but it's not the same as trance mediumship, where the mediumship is in a trance state. This is more of a conscious state, and they're just repeating what they hear. So channeling is a subjective term as to what you mean it to be. All forms of this work are a form of channeling, but if you were to call like a spiritualist medium a channeler, they might take offense, because what a medium does and what someone who operates under the title of channeler today do are very different things. How does one know if they possess any psychic ability versus strong gut feelings or strong sixth sense? Usually if you're psychic, you know. Usually by the time you come into it, you realize that you see, feel, perceive things beyond the normal senses. The kicker is that it can be validated, that it's not just, a lot of people want to claim being psychic, and they're aware of this spirit and this ghost, and they can give all this information, but when it comes to things that can be validated or predicted or confirmed, they couldn't tell you a thing. So I think if you're having experiences and they're turning out to be right, or you're seeing things or feeling things or hearing things, and they can be confirmed, then that's a pretty good indication that you have a good psychic ability. That being said, different people come into their abilities at different points in their life. Myself, I've always been the way that I am. Most mediums that I know have always been the way that they are. I do know some mediums who didn't come into their abilities until much later in life, but even then, upon retrospect, they can point out or isolate instances from their youth where things of a quote-unquote paranormal nature may have happened. So I think it's something that's always there. It just might not be sort of woken up until a little bit later on. And then there are some people who just are learned or developed psychics or mediums, who may not have necessarily had a pre-existing ability, but like a muscle, they worked at it and strengthened it and built it up. And I think that all of those are very possible. Hey Thomas, Jesse Namath, can you talk about what Spirit has to say about what's going on in the world right now? Here's my thing. I tend not to ask, because when I look at the state of the world and I see all of the deregulations and turmoil with the environment, when I look at who's in the United States Commander-in-Chief chair, it turns my stomach. When I look at the state of affairs between countries, it's upsetting. We're in a place that seems incredibly dark right now, and nobody, well, a select few, but for the most part, most people don't want turmoil in this world that we have to live in. And so it makes it very hard for me as the person seeking guidance to be objective when asking my own guides or my own source about the nature of things. As far as either why things are the way they are or whatever, I do believe that it's necessary what we're going through right now. That a lot of what we're seeing between race, a lot of what we're seeing with a lot of the blatant discrimination that's come out of this presidency, a lot of what we're seeing, with all sorts of manner of issue, are bringing to the surface the poison and the infection that has been pushed down and squashed and tried to have been covered up for so long. Because in order for us to move into a place that's better and healthier and more balanced, those things have to heal. And so while I wish as many people that the world would have gone in a different direction, especially within the past 6 to 8 months, I think that we have to go through this contrasting experience to make anything worthwhile. It's that pressure that's making the diamond. I will say, I do not think that we are moving towards doomsday. I don't think that the end of the world is coming. More so than we think we are. we are held in a state of grace. And it becomes very easy to become distracted by the external things that seem to matter in the moment. But at the end of the day, the greatest balance that we can give the planet is to find the balance and the peace within us. So that's what I have to say with that. So it's like being a radio. Yeah, it's very much like being a radio. And sometimes we just are adjusted into different frequencies. AM, FM, 92.1, 10.9. Very much like a radio. Excuse me. Morning from Oz. Good morning to you. What's going on in the land down under? Everything's going on. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Shannon says, so it seems like I keep going back to mediumship or psychic stuff. I'm trying to do other things, but the doors just keep shutting me down. No money, no signing up. It seems like I'm supposed to do this. Did you ever get that feeling? Someone asked me the other day, and this goes perfectly into your question, why do you do the work that you do? And for me, it was never, obviously I believe there's choice in everything, but it never felt like a choice. I could not imagine myself doing anything else. It's not what I do, it's who I am. I eat it, I breathe it, I sleep it, I wake up. Spirit is a part of my everyday life. Working with clients has been a part of my life since the time I was 16 years old. I honestly don't know what I would have done. And even in high school, when they're trying to tell you to pick college and do this and figure out what you want to do, I wanted to talk to dead people, and I wanted to teach classes, and I wanted to help, and it never felt like there was any other option. It never felt like there was any other way, and everything in my life conspired to push me in that direction. So for me, it was I was going to use a phrase that I don't want to use. It was like a choiceless choice. And I think that for those of us who are supposed to do this work professionally, that's the way that it is. I wouldn't even know if I didn't have an ability, I don't even know what I would do. I don't even know how I would function in the real world. Period. Like, at all. Because I have no sense of direction. I really have no, like, skills or traits or talents. I honestly have no idea what I would be good at. I would be lost. I would be a mess if I didn't have what Spirit gave me. You know, when I was writing yesterday, I was finishing up some of the things on the book I'm working on, and I was writing about 2 or 3 periods over the course of my life when I was going through an energetic change of some of the guides and helpers that worked with me, and that in those moments or in that time where I was going through that transition, my body went through a few days of kind of being shut off psychically or shut off intuitively. And it's always horrible. It's horrible. It's like when it happens, you know, because my whole life I never knew what it was like to not have visions, to not see things, or not feel things, or not know things, and to not to know what it's like to not feel alone, because I've never in my entire life felt alone. And in those moments, those select few instances or a few days of periods of time over the course of my life where I was kind of shut down, it was awful. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, and I have a friend who's comes from a spiritualist family, so she gets me, and she grew up around mediums and stuff, and even though she's not a practicing medium, she has her own sensitivities and talents, and I'm like, is this what muggles feel like? Like, is this what regular people feel like every day? Like, oh, I can't imagine not being who I am. Like, to not have that connected feeling, to not have that source of guidance, it was the worst thing for me. One of the worst things for me that I could ever imagine. And it baffles my mind how people go through life without ever acknowledging intuition, or without hearing things or seeing things. I'm just glad I am the way that I am, I guess. Montana, that's a great question. Have you ever seen any accurate portrayals of psychics in movies or television? Books, even. I am a big movie buff, and of course I'm a big reader, I'm a big book fan, so it's always exciting for me to find things that, even if just in elements, show accurate or semi-accurate representations of my experience as a medium. There is a movie called Hereafter with Matt Damon that I think shows a pretty good job of what the medium experiences, or how the process of connecting with someone on the other side works. That being said, I thought the movie was incredibly long and incredibly boring, but the role that he played, I think he did a good job, and I think that the producers of the movie did a very good job at illustrating psychic connection in a way that's not hokey. I'm trying to think of some other ones that might stand out. I do love the movie The Gift with Cate Blanchett. While her experiences of visions aren't so in your face as they are, I think, for most psychics and readers, I thought that was a little closer to home and does a good job of telling the story of a psychic who assists in locating a dead body, which is something that I relate to, having worked in missing persons. I'm trying to think. And as stupid as this sounds, and as cheesy as these movies were, in the Twilight movies, the character of Alice is clairvoyant. And the one thing that I think Stephanie Meyers did a good job of explaining is that I liked when they talked about how what Alice sees for the future is subjective. That when someone's on a set timeline, she's able to see the outcome, but as they make changes, the outcome changes, because that's very much my experience when I do readings. So I thought that was good. My battery is running low. I have time for one, maybe two quick questions, but is there anything else you guys want to look at before I have to get off here? Actually, you know what, you guys? There's a movie from, I think it was 1988 or 1989, something in there, called Resurrection with Ellen Bernstein. And it's about a woman who has a near-death experience, and as she comes back, she finds that she has the ability to heal herself and heal others, and also has some other abilities as well. And I thought that there were some interesting things in there that really rang true of a spiritual nature, and I thought was an excellent movie. A lot of very poignant things that are brought up in that. Have I visited John of God in Brazil? No, I haven't. I know people who have. I want to believe, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of anything that is invasive. I'm skeptical of anything that is, I don't know, there's elements of it that seem slightly culty, and I absolutely believe that spirit can heal people, even miraculous healings, but I'm just very skeptical about the elaborate ritual of it all. Gina, how long is my waiting list? I usually book out, lately, the past few months, I've been booking out a month ahead in advance. So right now I only have 2 more days left for phone readings in September, and I think I'm pretty full up as far as in-person readings. So I would probably be, you know, if you're planning for something in the near future, you're probably looking at October. I've lived there 6 months. Elijah, I would actually be very interested to hear some of your experiences. If you'd want to email me, I would love to hear about them. I truly would. Like I said, I'm skeptical, but I'm very open-minded about it. Alright, you guys, I think I'm probably testing fate with my battery here. But I thought there were some really thoughtful and interesting questions that came up, so I thank you. I think I learn just as much when I do these as you guys do when you ask. Great waking up to you, lovely. I always tell people that being a medium and intuitive is who you are. And there's not a day that goes by where you don't feel anything. It's who we are, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I will pop on a little bit later in the week. Other than that, I appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you soon.